Hey, everybody. Hey, happy Wednesday. Happy hump day, everybody. I want to talk about something that I was talking about on Instagram, and I think it's an important message that we don't hear enough today. And I think as I sit in my office, and it's nice because I'm sort of in this like 2-week lull in between traveling, in between the craziness that was March and the craziness that'll ensue at the end of April. So I've got a little bit of some wiggle room, and I'm thinking about all the things that I have been faced with and I've looked at in my life, and as I innovate in my own business and as I grow to that next level of business. And I want to talk about the concept of turning assumptions upside down. It's a comedy principle. It comes from comedy. And it looks like this. You probably see it when you watch a sitcom or you watch any kind of movie. You see a fish out of water. You see incongruity. We call it juxtaposition. Sometimes you hear it known as clash of contexts. It's where you take two things that on the surface of it look like they should never go together. We're not talking about peanut butter and jelly or chocolate and peanut butter. Those are delicious. We're talking about two ideas that on the surface of it, you might say, you know what? Those things don't look like they should ever go together. On no planet should Arnold Schwarzenegger ever be dealing with kids. Ever should he be with kindergartners. But somehow it happens in Kindergarten Cop. And so it's this idea of taking two things that on the surface look so disparate from different worlds that there's no way these things could fit. And yet, when we put them together, we create this whole magical mashup, and sometimes the results are way better than we could have ever imagined. So one of the things that we need to think about is taking things that we have already decided don't belong and suspend our own assumptions about putting them together. So that happens in the comedy world. So what does it mean for you in your business? Well, what does that look like? What we call applied comedy, applied improv. What would that look like? Well, how about this? How about you go through your business and you look at little ways that you can innovate by challenging assumptions you've already made. So we all go through our life, we all go through our business making fundamental assumptions. Now, those assumptions are based on data, on patterns. However, things change. So sometimes things change, your business changes, your customers change, their needs change, what you want to do changes, things change. And sometimes we don't go back to those assumptions that we've made and question them. So what if we did? What if we went back to each and every assumption over time and started off with little assumptions? Going to the big assumptions might be a lot too soon. But what if we took the little assumptions that we make and look for areas we could improve? So perhaps one little assumption might be, hey, everybody wants to see a newsletter every 3 weeks or every 2 weeks. Maybe they only want it monthly. Maybe you could challenge the assumption that everybody wants words or text. Now, I love to write. Some people are kick-ass at video, and maybe they don't need words, they need video. That's okay too. Try that, see what happens. Maybe you could challenge the assumption that your audience doesn't like, humor. I don't know who doesn't like humor, but I hear this all the time from conservative industries that I work with. Nobody likes to, humor. It's too risky. Oh, please. Because even if you're in business, like you're a bank or you're in finance or whatever, you're still dealing with people at the other end who have a sense of humor. And you know what? 93% of human beings like to laugh. Come on, lighten up. So challenge these little assumptions. Maybe start with a humor video. Start with a little humor image, something that gets people laughing. So look for these little spaces to innovate. And it starts where you've made an assumption about your service or about maybe your customer experience or maybe your product, maybe your newsletter, maybe the ways that you interact and touch your customers. So start with something, flip that script, question that assumption. Look to prove yourself wrong. That's something that we don't do often enough. We're so often trying to prove ourselves right. And I think innovation happens in the spaces where we allow for the fact that we might be wrong. And not even just wrong, because wrong suggests that somehow we did something imperfectly or we were bad or whatever. Because wrong maybe is the wrong word. Wrong is wrong. Wrong is wrong. It worked at the time, but things change. And sometimes we have to go back, and what may have worked for you at one point is no longer relevant or valid. So go back to those assumptions and revisit them. Be willing to risk them. Be willing to say, hey, It worked at one point, it doesn't work anymore. So be willing to go and challenge those assumptions. So I love this concept. I think it's one of my favorite concepts from improv. It's something that I've learned and I use all the time in comedy, and I'm using in my business a lot. And I use with my clients a lot. Where can we go in and disrupt? Where can we take those assumptions and disrupt? Disruptive industries were created on the whole premise of challenging an assumption. Like there's no room for innovation here, or there's no room for a third party or an independent newcomer. And that is not always the case. So innovation will happen in those spaces where we are willing to say, I know we've always done it this way, but what if? What if we did this? What if we tried that? What if we turned one of these sacred cows upside down? Sacred cow tipping. What if we turned that assumption upside down and we were willing to look at it through a whole new lens and challenge that assumption that we're making? So that's really the message I want to leave with you. I think it's such an important one, and we don't do it enough. So start small, challenge little assumptions. Little experiments can lead to these big things. So you don't have to scare yourself all at once. Little things. And I like isolating little variables, because then we can see what the impact is. One little thing at a time. It's like split testing. One little thing at a time, then we can see what the results are before we close out and try something else. If you have too many things going, sometimes it's hard to see cause and effect. So try little things. Here's my challenge to you. Try one thing a week for the next 30 days, just one thing a week. If you feel like, gosh, this is going well, try 2 things a week. If you can do it daily, that's great. Most people can't. That's okay. Try one thing a week. And I think what you'll be pleasantly surprised at is some things won't work, some things will. And take notes of what those things are and how it felt and what you noticed. And I really encourage you to do that on a regular basis. So that's my tip for today. I really want you to take those assumptions and really question them. We don't do that enough in our lives. We don't do it enough in our businesses. So take that assumption, turn it upside down, shake the crap out of it, look for the loose change. All right, everybody, that's where innovation lives. I'm Kathy Klotz-Guest. Visit keepingithuman.com, and we'll see you on the next video. Take care.